This week on Painted Plastic.
Hey everybody, Brandon here for Painted Plastic. Welcome to the first video in this build series. And what are we building today? We have the mega size RX-78-2. This is a giant. If you've never seen one of the mega size, they are actually massive. This is the shield right here. You can see how just enormous it is. Alright. And get a couple things in the box that are kind of neat. This is the Hobby Japan magazine. This is our mega size right here on the cover. And as you can see, it's 375 millimeters tall, which is of course 37.5 centimeters. Or an American ease, about 14.5 inches. These are actually kind of neat. Flip through. They've got, well, if I get it on camera, they've got different paint schemes, different customizations. Really kind of cool. You know, if you want to do something that's not just the standard out of the box RX-78. Also get some instructions, of course. And when you first pull them out, the very first thing you notice is everything is in Japanese. But that's really okay because Bandai does a great job of just illustrating perfectly what you're supposed to do. You can see from the images. There are a few call-outs here and there. Think little signs like this. There's all kinds of little things like that. I'll point those out as we go along. But once you see them a couple of times, you kind of figure out what they mean. Yeah, so got sticker locations right here on the front, which actually for the, sorry for all the noise, crinkly Bandai plastic. There it is. With these mega size, you actually get water slides, which is really nice. There are no stickers at all for the kit. All the markings are water slides. If you've never used water slides, they're great fun, and they really are a whole lot better than stickers. So, yeah, all these parts, all these pieces. First thing we're going to do is just go through kind of the initial build, assemble it all, get a full model. Then we'll go over the plan as far as painting. We're going to be adding some custom lights for the vents and the eyes, and we'll go over all that, when we get to it. But the first step is just going to be to assemble the model. Give me just a second to clear all this stuff out, and we will start. Looks like step number one, if you open your instructions, are legs. So we'll start assembling the legs. Give me just a second. Be right back. Okay, so we're back, ready to begin constructing the feet and legs. Jump right into the instructions. The first box you see points out all the runners that you'll need to complete the section for the feet and legs. And the very first step is the soles of the feet with the top of the foot. The first little call out that you notice in the instructions is a red box like this. It'll have a 2, a character I don't know, and more characters I don't know. But the 2 means that you're going to do this twice. And you'll see this in a lot of this is the feet. This will end up being a knee. So you're going to do 2 knees. But that's the first little indication of something. So what we need is J1 and 2 for the tops and the bottoms of the feet. And I have those here. Oh, wait a minute. What supplies are we going to need? Instructions, of course. Parts. Some cutters. These are Tamiya. Really nice cutters. You need a nice pair of side cutters, nice and sharp, nice and fine to get into tight corners. And then you need a blade. I always just use like the standard razor blade. These I have, a box of 100 of them in my garage. So a lot of people use a hobby knife, which they're fine, they're great. But I keep these on hand anyway, so why spend the $20 or whatever for a hobby knife? Anyway, and we'll need some sanding tools. I have a lot of different things that I use regularly. Sticks are great. You can get different coarseness to really fine. I have in my box I have a extra fine. Oh no, actually there it is right there. If you are not painting your Gundam, which I mean a lot of people don't. There's a lot of products out there that can dress it up without having to paint. If you're not painting, when you sand down the little imperfections, here we'll just pop this off real quick and I'll show you what I mean. When you're cutting your runners, don't go right up to it. Leave a little teeny what's called a nub, but it's just a little blob of plastic there at the end of the sprue. There, so we can cut a piece off, right? Can you see that? Little teeny. These are nubs. Every part will have them. Bandai is usually really good about making them either on the back of the model where it doesn't really matter, or making them really small. And the nice thing about these mega size kits, I don't know if you can really see. Let's see if I can get that a little bit closer. See, the part where the plastic actually attaches to the piece is really very, very small. So once you cut it off, take your blade. Guys, be careful with razors. They're sharp. Hobby knives as well. And we're just gonna not really cutting, more just sliding the blade across and just cut those little ends off. You can see a little imperfection there in the plastic. It's a little discolored, a little white mark. Your paint will cover those, but if you're not painting, and that was the point of this whole bit, if you're not painting, you need to sand to a really, really fine grit. So like I would start, let's say we're going to get rid of this. Start with a kind of coarse. You'll see it scratches up the plastic. Actually, a lot of times for this part, I have, this is actually it's a nail file. I stole it out of my wife's makeup bin. But it's got coarse, medium, and fine all in one block. So I'll grab that usually, and I'll use the second coarse, unless it's like putty or something. But for plastic, I'll use the medium grit. And where's my mug? There. And I'll just pull that across, and you can see it scratches it up a little bit. But then when you go to the fine, you can buff it down. And see, there's still you can see a difference in the sheen. Now this is what I was talking about. If you are not painting this model, see, that's perfect. That's perfectly fine for paint. Your primer will cover right over that, and you'll never know. If you are going to leave it like this, you would want to go down to an extra fine and really buff that plastic that you scratched. Otherwise, you're always going to see a difference in texture, and it can be very time consuming. But unless you want to see scratches all over your model when you're done, you really got to polish it down. Let's see, that takes it, even that little bit there, you can see, I hope you can see, kind of brought the shine back to the area that we sanded. So once it was all built, you'd never know that was cut. Like I said, when you're painting your model, you really just need to knock down the area so that it's smooth to the touch, and then take out any heavy scratches, of course, but it doesn't need to be polished to the same degree. So this thing is I don't know where. I mean, I guess maybe like drugstores or Targets or something might have these. I don't know where she got it. So, but they're really handy. I mean, these are great. You know, sanding sticks are fine. There's sponges you can get that are, you know, they're all great. This I got out of the wife's makeup bin, you know, and it works fine if you know. That's perfectly fine for paint. Not, you know. So those are our tools, and actually we've kind of gotten started on the first piece, the foot. That is, if you see the instructions, that's J1. So we need J2. And and then I didn't even. I jumped ahead. Let's backtrack a minute. On the J runner, you can see this part here is number 1, and this is the runner I cut it off of. And if you see right down here, they've got the same call out. The part goes to the legs, and this is part number 1, and then the label is runner. The runner's label is J. So that's how you distinguish all these things. Now we need J number 2, and that's the sole of the foot. I'm not even doing this on camera. So we'll snip that part off. Remember to leave a little blob of plastic. If you go right up to it with a nice pair of side cutters, I mean, you can go right up to the part and snip it. But sometimes, especially if your cutters are maybe not as sharp as they could be, it'll damage the plastic a little bit. It'll stress it. But if you go just close to it, you can sometimes just sand off that little bit and not even have to trim it. Which, this is not one of those times. If you can feel it, then you'll probably see it. This part doesn't matter as much, and honestly, this is a good example of when you can just put the part together. The way this part fits, it's the sole of the foot, and that'll be good enough. Well, sorry, there's a little speck. Anyway, this edge here will not be seen, because when you fit it into the foot, see how it's gonna go right into that groove, and you'll never see that edge. So you can assemble this part, paint it all together, prime it, paint it, and that can be basically a finished foot, because the next part is going to sit on top of it. It doesn't necessarily connect to anything internally. We are not going to push it down all the way. Oh, which reminds me, one of the neat things these mega size kits give you, and I've never seen one in any other Gunpla box, but if anyone has, you know, comment down below what grade it was that they gave you these things. But this is the only time I've ever seen them in the mega size, and I don't know what its name is because I can't read the Japanese, but it's a neat little tool for prying parts apart. If you know, like you stick something and you didn't necessarily mean to crank down on it, this thing does a really good job of getting in there and splitting the part. So you can get it back, you know, if you need to. So you just take it and go around the edge of the piece, and eventually that part will be loose enough that you can just pop it back out. Well, so that's a kind of neat little tool. It also says that you can remove parts from the sprue, but I mean, I guess it works, but you know, it's kind of awkward, really. I don't know. I can't even get this one off. Oh, and it just fell off. Yeah, and then it fell on my lap. I mean, it works. Look what it, you know, look what it did to that part, though. You know, so I don't know. I don't use it for that. It's nice to split pieces, but cutters, you know, get your cutters for removing parts. I mean, look what it did to this part right here. That's horrible. That's all right, though. We will fix it, and maybe that'll be a little speck of damage when we're done. But we can certainly dress it up. Oh, they really did a number on it. I think for this we're going to need something a little more heavy duty. This is standard like sandpaper you get at the hardware store. It's 220 grit. It's fine, but for the plastic models it's really very coarse, so be careful. And of course you'll have to step down to the other grits, you know, once you get it the way you want it. But it will remove a lot more material a lot faster. And sometimes when you're, especially if you work with putty, if you're filling seams or doing modifications, then you're working with putty, you want something to sand with. It's a little more heavy duty for the initial sand. This will definitely scratch up your plastic, so try to, you know, go in different directions occasionally just so you don't have deep old gouges. But it can knock some material off. Now we'll go back to our regular tools. Just get rid of some of those scratches left behind. And I don't know if you can see that. There's still a slight imperfection right in here. I don't even know if that focusing. There we go. Right around this area. But like I said, we can live with that. It'll be a little damage mark when we're done painting, so we can hide that. Just get the rest of these little nubs off. The rest of them don't look as bad. I think we need to cut that one. I really got to get better about staying on the camera. You want to be careful when you're sanding too. These panel lines, sometimes they're raised, and if you go over them too much, you'll flatten them out. Just be careful when you're sanding. All right. So these parts went together. One more. This is, according to the manual, J2. J2. Right? Couldn't be simpler. And that runner's done, so it can go in the trash. Sometimes I keep runners, especially the whites and the reds and the blacks, because you can make cool stuff with them sometimes. Maybe we'll do some of that on this one. I'm not sure yet. Again, this part, I'm probably overworking it just because you're never going to see those nubs. But anyway, they come right off. And this goes to that. And this runner's done. Alright, so per our instructions, we have made 2 feet. There they are. Gotta get everything else out of the way. 2 feet.